to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. And guys, the season's over. It's done. We can cry. It's okay. But I'm going to recap it with the Above the Yellow Line crew. We got Dom Joseph and Adam Lucas back on the show. Zachary Bell couldn't make it this time, but you'll see a little bit from him later in the show where we talk about our NASCAR superlatives. We're also going to do some updates and hot takes talking about the upcoming season, some words from Steve Phelps. We're also going to talk a lot about silly season. So, first off, guys, how are you doing? How are we feeling?
I'll let Adam go first.
I'm feeling good. I'm chilling on the beach, as you can see. Great time in the off season. Catch up a little bit on some sleep. But in all honesty, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm all good. Disappointed the season's over, but there's still racing going on too. So not all is lost right now. So all good right now for sure.
Hey, you and Adam are twinning, I can see.
Yeah, we're both pulling for the same guy to win the world title, it appears.
Yes, very much. That and go for the constructors.
Yeah, honestly. It's about time. Someone other than Mercedes.
Well, F1, that'll be a hot topic these next coming weeks. But for now, let's focus on NASCAR, guys. Let's go straight into our race recap for the race at Phoenix, the championship race. First off, we got to congratulate our Truck Series champions and our Xfinity Series champion. Ben Rhodes had the best average finish of the drivers in the championship 4. He celebrated with a fun-filled press conference with his friend Bud. If you know, you know. You absolutely know. He was pretty wasted. And then congrats to Daniel Hemrick as well. He got his first championship and his first win all in one day. It was pretty spectacular with, I think, in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but one of the best finishes I've seen in Xfinity racing history. Y'all agree?
I put it up
yeah.
there.
It's one of the best that I've seen personally.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. And then the Cup Series, I mean, it's no surprise. Kyle Larson won the championship. It was his to lose, so it was really good to see him be able to keep the title that I think was his. He finished in first. Truex was so close in second. He had the car to beat for most of the day. He had a really good long-run car, so it took a bit for it to get to him, but in the end, he was so close to Larson, but fell short yet again. I believe this is the third straight time in a row he's finished runner-up. And then we have Hamlin in third, and then Elliott. Last restart, don't know what happened. Hamlin had a bad restart. Elliott was behind him, got kind of held up there, and then he finished in 5th. The rest of your top 10 that are not your championship 4 drivers are Blaney in 4th, Almirola in 6th, pretty impressive there. Kyle Busch in 7th, Kevin Harvick in 8th, Christopher Bell in 9th, and 10th was Brad Keselowski. So, guys, how do we feel about how the championship race shook out? Do you guys feel like there were any upsets this weekend?
I guess probably almost like a kick to the knee would be Blaney running so well at Phoenix. Yeah. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I kind of had been poo-pooing him even trying to be in the Final 4 just because he would be at a disadvantage against the other drivers that were in the championship run. But then seeing him actually have a really decent day, that was a big surprise to me.
John, what about you?
You know, it was good to see that while everyone was saying, yeah, this is the battle between Larson, Elliott, and Hamlin, it was good to see Truex really say, hey, I won here in the spring. Don't count me out. And there was a really good chunk of time where we were starting to gear up and say Martin Truex Jr. is going to pull the upset and win the title. So it was good to see that because I look back at last year, Logano had won the spring race, had a good first stage in the title race, and then really couldn't hold off the rest after that. He used it all too early. But for Truex to prolong that car all the way through and be as competitive as he was, there's a lot to be proud of at Joe Gibbs, because of course, if you look at this whole season, Hendrick Motorsports was out by miles, and for them to be that close, got to be happy with that if you're Gibbs, especially for Truex, who he was just happy to be in the championship for.
Absolutely. And the season as a whole, though, I mean, I would agree with you. I thought Truex had, for me, a lackluster season, but I thought he did the championship race proud. He did his team proud in that race. And of course, another close finish, second place in the championship race sucks, but it was a performance I don't think any of us expected. Jimmy Hamlin, for me, left a little bit to be desired. I expected a little bit more from him in the championship race, but he clearly, for me personally, had the last place car of the championship 4. Elliott. It was, for me, the whole day, it was really between Elliott, and then it was also between Truex, and then Larson on that last pit stop. He was able to get out. He won, and of course, that gave him track position, and he was ready to go. But that was the results from the race. But looking back at the season as a whole with our penalty report. Now, Adam was kind enough to send this to me from NASCAR's Reddit page. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of take a look at, because as a whole this season, there were 317 penalties. And the majority of those were, I think no surprise, speeding on pit road. The severity of them, the majority was the tail end of the field. And also some noteworthy things. Rick Ware Racing held 62 of those 317 penalties. Next in line was Stuart Haas with 31, and then Joe Gibbs Racing with 29. The least penalized drivers, pretty cool. Brad Keselowski, we had the 17 and the 43. The most penalties, Cody Ware. I don't know if I want to go into this more about any surprises, but why not? Were there any surprises? Anything you were shocked was not on this list? Dom, let's start with you.
It is cool. I like to see, especially for a team like Richard Petty Motorsports, having only 2 penalties all season. That's huge. That's huge for that team. I mean, just that means, pit crew was phenomenal all season long. Only 2 hiccups in a 36 race schedule. That's really solid. In terms of most penalties, RWR, it's just nature of the beast. It happens. And then seeing speeding on pit road, that just shows you. It's cool to get that visual look. That's how common that is. As soon as you think, wow, these guys really have it dialed in, they've worked on dialing their tacks in. That one lap on pit road isn't enough. You really try to get everything you can, but that just shows you and gives you an idea. They're really trying everything they can to get every split second on pit road, and sometimes they go over.
Adam, what about you? Anything surprise you?
I guess probably seeing Joe Gibbs Racing right up there with 29 being in the top 3 of most penalized teams this past season. Obviously, you're trying to push the limit every weekend and every pit stop, and only having 29 out of 36 races. That it might seem like, 29 is a lot, but in reality, when you have a 4-car team, maybe not such a big deal. And once again, always pushing the limits to get 2 of your cars into the championship for pushing the limit like that. I like that. I like to see that. The competition, very close.
Speaking of competition, though, so we have points to look at because the above the yellow line brackets and our race winning pick results are in. The points have been tallied. So let's start with the bracket. So Adam, you had 28 points. Dom, you had 25 points.
Boy.
Yeah. You fell from grace a little bit at the end.
I had 26 points. I actually did the second best, which I'm kind of surprised about. And then Zach had 23 points.
Now here's where things get interesting. Our race winning picks. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I should have got last place. This is no surprise. You all know this. Just last place. I won't even mention mine. But Adam, you had 51 points. Dom, you had 81 points. Yeah. And then I had 44 points. Zach had 52. So if you're doing the math in your head, or if you're not, don't worry, I have it for you all. And last place was me with 70 points. In third place was Zach with 75 points. In first place, winning the diecast from each individual member of the Above the Yellow Line crew with 81 points is Dom. Congratulations.
I will take my Red Bull cars. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, it's good to be lucky. So it's a guessing game. It's not like I really knew exactly what was going to happen. Just I got lucky.
I know. You got diecast out of it, which is pretty cool. And I will say though, as I was calculating the points every week, and out you and Adam kept switching, but at the beginning we all thought that Zach was going to win the whole thing because he was just, I don't know what it was with the beginning of the playoffs, but he caught onto something really fast. So it was honestly a toss-up until probably the last 4 races where things started to kind of shift a different direction. But congrats, Dom, on winning. We're going to do this next season as well, but we're going to do it more long-term, so it'll be more of a shock. The points will be much greater. We'll work on a different system, but still very exciting. I'm a little jealous, but that is okay. We're fine.
I'll save my speech for the awards ceremony.
Yeah, do it. But for giving out awards and points, let's go to our race rating above or below the yellow line. We all rated this race, championship race, final one. We all have to put in our input. Let's start with Adam. What did you rate the Phoenix championship race and why?
I almost regret putting this rating in, but I guess I can sort of justify it quickly. I gave it a 63 out of 100, so I am above the yellow line. However, knowing going into Phoenix that the 5-car was probably going to be pretty dominant, and then he followed through with it, that kind of took the cake for me with it not being higher. And just not a lot of real playoff drama like we've seen this playoff season. Like if we go back to Darlington, freaking bonkers. There's no other way to describe that race. The drama at the Roval, the drama at Dega, the drama everywhere. This race kind of went out more with a little bit of a fizzle instead of a bang. But once again, I mean, congrats to Kyle Larson. That's who I picked. That's how I got the bracket points. Thank you. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm seeing. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. I've seen way worse championship races. So 63.
Dom, what about you? What'd you give this race and why?
I agree with Adam. How he said it didn't go out with a bang, more so a fizzle. There's a difference between a firecracker and a firework. This was a firecracker race. I gave it a 70, and I gave it a 70 because there was a time in that race where we all legitimately thought all 4 of them could have won that race. It would have been a lot higher if we would have had some more late race drama. We had that pit stop with, 30, 20 to go around that area. And that it just, as soon as Larson got off pit road, everybody knew what was going to happen. It was inevitable, and there is no stopping it. But it was good to see, though, again, like Truex was in the lead and couldn't be touched. And everyone started thinking, okay, well, didn't see this coming. This is interesting. And it was also cool to see in that late run, Chase make that. He just said, all right, you know what? I'm throwing everything at this, and drove through almost to Truex, but it was just a little too late, and just ran out of grip, ran out of car, honestly. And that's basically what resulted in him finishing 5th. He used all his stuff too early, and Hamlin took advantage of that. But I give it a 70. It was a good race. I've seen better championship races. There have been some that have been really, really close, but yeah, I give it a 70.
For me, this race ranked higher than I thought it would. I went in with the same impression as Adam. It's going to be the Kyle Larson show. Why am I watching this? Yet again, congrats to Kyle Larson. And to everyone's point, there was more competition than I think we all thought, which is what made this race so exciting for me. There was a point where it was a 5-way battle for the lead. Even it was Blaney and Harvick mixed with, I believe it was Elliott, Hamlin, and Truex, because I think Larson was still in the back of the pack at that point. I could be getting my drivers wrong. Correct me in the comments.
I think you're right.
Sweet. I like being right. That's good. But, I don't know. It was an exciting race, and then towards the end, we all knew what was going to happen. But for me, it exceeded what I thought was going to happen. Therefore, I gave it an 81% benefit of the doubt. And then Zach actually gave it an 80%. So we were pretty even on what we would rate this race as well. So those are our race ratings, closing out the Phoenix Raceway race. But moving on into updates and hot takes, we got to talk about some postseason questions we have. I know Steve Phelps had a press conference that he held before the Championship 4 race where he mentioned some very interesting things. We're going to talk about those first. Then we're going to talk about the LA Coliseum format that was announced and our thoughts regarding that, because I know we have some opinions on that. But let's start off by looking at some comments. I'll kind of read them out, skim them over. You'll see them on the screen. But we're going to kind of gloss over them and kind of give our thoughts. So some more from Steve Phelps is on 2022, we are going to have our most successful television year yet, pretty much is what he said, and he won't confirm or deny. This is the big one I want to pause and talk about for a second. That Dodge is coming back to NASCAR. That's been a big rumor that has been circulating pretty much all season long, but has really started to gain momentum as of this week as the conversations have picked up, and of course that press conference brought it up. I want to know, Adam, I guess your thoughts first. Do you think that Dodge is a legitimate manufacturer that we can see back in the sport?
Please come back. Please come back. Like all good things, like the McRib, like Honda in Formula One, everything must come back. So, God willing, Dodge will be back in NASCAR. I think there's plenty of support from the fans aspect. I think there's plenty of teams that are probably interested in maybe being an exclusive Dodge team. Get a little. So, I'm buying this Dodge option more and taking it more serious than I have in the previous 5 to 10 years.
And then, Dom, what do you think about there being a fourth manufacturer in the sport? Do you see that being a benefit to NASCAR, a negative? Do you think it'll vary competition?
I think it's good for the sport. It's you want to have more fan bases in the sport. Realistically, I mean, there's a lot of people that rooted for Dodges when they were in the sport. I thought the Chargers were awesome before they ended up phasing out. I thought it was great too that they left with a championship in hand, so they can still come back into the sport as defending champions because they left in 2012 with the cup in hand. So they've still got it. They haven't lost that title yet, technically. I think it's really good. It's cool to see that Dodge is coming back. I remember hearing a couple years ago that Nissan may have wanted to take interest in the sport. I didn't see it happening, but I could see it as legitimate considering Toyota had entered in the sport and how successful Toyota was pretty much almost right out of the gate. So, but to see a Charger or a Challenger back on the track, I mean, it's NASCAR. You want to see the Mustangs and the Camaros racing the Challenger. You want all the muscle cars on the track together. That's what NASCAR's about.
I think it'd be really cool. I was not around in the era of Dodge. I wasn't a fan back then, or I wasn't watching consistently. So I'd like to see it back in the sport just so I can have a feel of what that's like. Obviously, a different time. But also something that I don't want to see in the sport. I'm horrible with segues today. I'm sorry, guys. But the 550 horsepower package. There was another comment from Steve Phelps that I think irked some fans on social media. I can see their reactions already. The fan council shows those against the 550 are the vocal minority, according to Steve Phelps, in a comment that Jeff Gluck posted about. He says, the data suggests we have better racing right now than we've had arguably ever. We're not going to make every race fan happy. What one person likes, another person doesn't. Yeah, I will speak first. I don't like the 550. I think it can go kindly. If we're changing up the cars the next season and we're already making all these changes, why not make another change? That's just me, though. Adam, I know that we've been very vocal about this on the show before. I'm sure you're in the same opinion. Am I correct?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I like big, bad, nasty, fast horsepower. So, yeah. 550, too little. 850, ooh, now we're talking. 900, that's pushing the limit. That might be a little too drastic, but somewhere above 700, but below 900, that'd be somewhere I would want to see it.
And then, Dom, I don't think we've heard your opinion a lot on the 550 horsepower package, so I'm curious what yours is, and I know you made a face. You made a face after I mentioned the comment.
I grew up on the COT. The sound of the COT car, how high pitched those engines were. That was about 800 horsepower, if I remember correctly. They dropped it down to about 700 or so, or just under 800 at least when the Gen 6 came out. But still, I mean, those cars were cooking around the racetrack, and that's the one thing I really miss is you could tell the difference between a Cup car and an Xfinity car. The Xfinity car had a very low tone noise, whereas going down the backstretch at Charlotte, a Cup car is whining down the back because of how high those revs are getting. I'd love to see the high horsepower. I also really miss when there was just one horsepower package for the whole season and just stick to one thing. Why do we got to keep going back and forth? Well, we're going to have the 750 at these tracks and the 550 at these tracks. Well, just keep it, simplify it. Just keep it one thing and stick to it. And if it doesn't work, change it the next year. Just commit to one thing for the whole season. If it doesn't work, tweak it next year.
And I will say, going off of that too, I've talked a lot about on this channel how changing things even mid-race or even outside of mid-race, mid-season, it makes the season illegitimate in my opinion. If you change the rules in the middle of the season, you have a driver that's doing well, then they're not so hot, or even vice versa. It's like you're playing the game of life and you're like, well, actually, when you hit a life tile, you can't take one. I get to take one. And for me, you change the rules. I hate it. Adam, did you have something to add to that?
I was just clearing my throat, but also too to kind of bring home the point with Dom. If you go back and look at qualifying sessions from like any time in the 2000s and the beginning of the 2010s, like 2013, that was probably like the last like good year of single car qualifying. The sound, it's something that just brings you back. It makes you want to get more of it. That's what I miss, and I think that's what Dom was also trying to bring home, was that specific sound that we're itching for. It was so unique. There's words I can't describe, but that's how good it was.
You could hear how hard they were working in that race car.
Yes.
And you could hear every tenth that they were trying to get out of that car. And also, to go off of that, bring qualifying back, please.
Yeah.
Single car qualifying, bring it back.
And because I know they've talked about doing qualifying differently, and I hate that. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about our season of last, because they're going to totally change the format. They're not sure about it yet. They don't have it confirmed. I just don't like it. I love the single car qualifying. It was really entertaining to me. What's not entertaining, though, another horrible segue, Texas Motor Speedway. There was talks about the track and how it just did not do well, to be very nice about it. I know if Zach was on the show, he'd have some words. So insert Zachary Bell's comments here. But basically what Steve Phelps said from a tweet from Dave Moody referencing here, he said, candid commentary from NASCAR Steve Phelps. Texas was not our best foot forward, and we have to do something about that. He also reveals Kansas, the numbers were not great. 80% of the tickets were sold for that race, but only 60% of ticket-holding fans actually showed up to the race, which is pretty concerning. They also talked about the shifting of the schedule in the future, which I'm also, with the comment that was said, Phelps basically alluded to 2023, the schedule is going to look totally different. That concerns me for many reasons. We're changing too fast, in my opinion, one. Two, when are we going to have time to test all these new tracks? Because we already showed last season that a lack of testing made pretty not great races. But there is a lot to unpack there. I think I'm going to throw the first question to Dom here. What do you think about the schedule variation in the future, and what concerns you about it, or what excites you about it?
You know, it's, as a traditionalist, it's really tough for me because, you know, I am so used to, when I started watching the sport back in, I really committed to it in 2012, but I knew from about 05 to 10, the schedule was untouched. It was untouched for 6 straight years. And then they made a couple of tweaks in 2011 and 12, and it stayed like that for another 6 years. So they let it stay for a very long time so that you memorize it. For me, like, that's how I got really into the sport. I was able to memorize, okay, yeah, I know that the 600 Memorial Day weekend, I know that they're going to Sonoma in the summer. I know, of course, Daytona is the first race and it's the 4th of July race. And you could remember these things, but they just keep changing things over and over and over again. Of course, Daytona is no longer the 4th of July race. Heartbreak. The Clash is no longer at Daytona. Heartbreak. Brickyard is now a road course. Heartbreak. So it's just, they, again, stop changing things. Just stop. You're making it worse. But no, it's tough because now I don't even remember the schedule this year, because I could remember from all the other years, especially 2019 down, I could run off the whole schedule because it was the same. They're all the same. But obviously I give 2020 a mulligan. Can't say anything about that, just the way it was. But this year, I couldn't tell you. It's because everything got revamped, and now this year, or coming up, it's all going to be revamped, and then the next year it's going to get revamped, and then the next year it's going to get revamped. So it's difficult for sure.
Adam, what are you thinking?
I can totally agree with that because, I mean, as a kid growing up watching it, 2001, when we added Chicagoland and Kansas, the schedule stayed the same for about 3 seasons until they decided to ditch Darlington's 2 races, went down to 1, threw it out to California. Then it kind of stayed the same for about another 4 years, and then they changed a few things here and there. Then 2011 brought Kentucky on. So see, very spaced out times of changing up the schedule. That was okay. Now it's every single year. It's like, oh, well, we're going to take this race, move it all the way to a completely different season. Everyone's going to lose their notes. People that go to a race traditionally for that weekend might not be able to go to it. So that also hurts attendance. I know that for like Daytona, everyone wanted to be at Daytona Beach, 4th of July weekend. Very much a tradition. No one wants to go to Daytona at the end of August when it's the hottest. Plus, also, there's kids in school, so not everybody can get to go down. So there's a lot of factors in doing these schedule changes that I personally do not like. I do like seeing new tracks, bringing in some new blood, but all this change also fast, like all shoved right in our faces, it's quite a bit to swallow. So let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit. However, that doesn't sound like that's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
And especially one thing for sure, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, now that Homestead's no longer the championship race, you can see NASCAR has no idea where to put that race. It's in the spring one season, and now next season it's going to be in what, the second to last race of the season.
Playoffs.
So yeah, it's just they have no idea where to put Homestead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, actually. The championship race, they talked about the potential to still rotate that out, and my whole thought, too, actually went to Homestead, Miami, as well. How disappointed I was that was no longer the championship race, because it was perfect. There was multiple grooves. It was a mix of all the tracks that we kind of ran in the season. It was exciting. Then we went to Phoenix, and I was kind of like, ugh. But I will say this, for me, the races that I've seen at Phoenix, this was one of the more exciting ones, and obviously we've only been to Phoenix, like, what, twice, 3 times for the championship race at this point. In, I guess, recent history, or even ever, checking my history. But still, I miss Homestead. But also, would you guys be open to the championship race getting moved around every year?
I would be, for sure. I think it's really cool. I mean, look at the Super Bowl. It goes to a different location every season. The National Championship of Football, it goes to a different location every season. You let the big markets bid for the championship race. That's another good way to get more money into the sport. But with that being said, too, I also fully 100% agree with Taylor. When you think Homestead, you think Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch racing for the cup. The lights go out in Homestead, or the sun goes down, the lights come on. It's Miami Beach, the sunset, and someone's getting crowned a champion tonight. It's all so. What's the word I'm looking for? It just all feels so right.
Adam, I saw you shaking your head. No, you don't want the championship race moved around?
No. Once again, traditionalist speaking.
Yeah,
I got used to having Homestead Miami as the finale. There's just no other way around it. That race seemed to be the best combination of all the tracks that we've gone to. So going to Phoenix, which is more of a rarity, being only a mile, being odd shaped, and also being a completely different horsepower package, but that's a different story. I just don't like it. And moving it around, I understand your point, Dom, about like Super Bowls and national championships, but that's also because both teams, they're naturally going to play at a neutral site instead of playing a home game. Phoenix isn't a home game for anybody. Phoenix is one of the farthest races we travel to. I know Homestead's not close to any of the teams either, but Homestead just has that natural feel of being the finale race. Let's party at the beach. Let's go have a beer on the beach after the races. Everybody's going to go vacation somewhere as soon as the season's done. Let's go right down to the islands and stuff. They're right there. So for a weekend escape, it's great. For a race, fantastic. I love Homestead. I really, really want it to be back to being the finale. I almost would want to go there twice. But that also is another story because of money. So maybe if a backer who had enough money would like to roll the dice, maybe consider, hey, let's bring Homestead back to being the finale. I think that'd be great. Phoenix is okay, but I'd rather see Homestead.
In my opinions here is, yes, I would rather see Homestead. That is number one track in my heart, in my brain, for being the championship race. I would say, though, I am open to rotating it, but it has to be the right tracks. We cannot do a Talladega or Daytona finale. That is too dangerous. That is irresponsible. drivers are going to wreck themselves, hurt themselves to get that championship. Obviously, I know that they are smart, but when it comes to getting the trophy, I know some things go out the window. I don't want to see a Richmond finale race. I'm sorry, Richmond. I do not like the track. There's just some tracks that just do not make sense. For me, a road course maybe is a ways off for being a championship race because that is so specialized to a few drivers. And so we have to work our way towards that, but there are a select few tracks that work, and obviously, as we can all agree on, Homestead Miami is the perfect one. So please bring it back. Yeah, just do that, please. We're also having some changes at the beginning of next season. Right off the bat, the Clash. We're going to talk about the Clash format now because it's not really confusing. We've had a kind of run in with this type of format for the Texas All-Star race, but this is a little different. We kind of were under the impression, I would assume, and I'm going to speak for myself here, maybe the rest of you, that all the cars would be on the track. All of them would be on the track at once, but that is not so. They're breaking it into heats. 4 heat races. They're going to break it into about 10 cars per heat, and then they're going to take like the top 4 in the finishing positions, bring them into the final, and then the others are going to like race it out to have a final spot. It's really confusing. I have the graphic on the screen for you all because I'm sure the graphic will explain it better than I can. But this is a concern for me because we heard Dale Jr. talk about there's plenty of room on the track for all these cars. We've heard many people that I think we trust in the industry talk about how excited they are, and then whether they knew the format before we did or not, we're seeing this format and I'm feeling thrown off. And for me, if we're going to test a track for any race, make it the Clash. Test a track at the Clash. But I have concerns. Adam, I know we talked about some concerns off screen. I think we have the same ones, but do you have any more you want to add to that too?
No, I mean, I really think that now we're starting to realize this track is going to be small. It's going to be tight, and there would be no way in hell that we could get 40 cars on the track. I know that the Clash isn't meant to be 40 cars, so that's okay with me. But I think maybe the realization that trying to make this maybe a feasible race in the future, not as an exhibition race, I think that may have gone out the window.
Dom, what about you? How are you feeling about this format?
I just, it's just so hard for me because I won't say the Clash, the Budweiser shootout got me back into NASCAR. I started watching back in 2008 and kind of phased out. It wasn't really getting my attention anymore. And then I said, all right, Budweiser shootout's coming on tomorrow night. I'll watch it. Why not? It was the 2012 shootout, best race I've ever seen in my life, still to this day. I've got the diecast of Kyle Busch's car that shouldn't have finished that race, but won it anyway, just to give you an idea that, yes, I still say that Kyle Busch is the greatest driver on the grid right now in NASCAR. But that race got me back, and it was at Daytona. And you don't mess with tradition. The Clash started in Daytona and has always been at Daytona. When they changed it to the road course race last year, that upset me. And now that they're taking it to the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which is it's in an area where we already know there really isn't that big of a grouping for NASCAR fans. I mean, look at Auto Club Speedway. They're having to tear it down and rebuild it, trying to get the fans back. It confuses me what their whole approach is, what their angle is, but you don't mess with tradition. And that's what they did here with the Clash. And again, in terms of the race itself, I mean, the track's going to be maybe a quarter mile bigger than Bowman Gray. Maybe that's maybe a stretch of how much bigger it's going to be. So it's going to be tiny. It's going to be a tiny racetrack. It's going to be a very narrow racetrack. So there ain't going to be nowhere to go, which will be fun for the fans. It's going to be a demolition derby, no doubt about it. No cars getting home clean. We'll just have to wait and see what that brings for the fans.
I don't want to see a derby. I mean, sometimes it's fun, but in NASCAR, that just makes my skin crawl. And yes, these cars are more cost effective, which means when they get damaged, maybe it's not that big of a blow to the budget, but I hate it for those teams. They work so hard on those cars, getting them together. These drivers, no matter if it's the Clash race or the championship race, I don't want to see any cars getting messed up. Sometimes it's great, like I said, sometimes it's absolutely not. I just do not want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see rules changing in between. I also want to see this done professionally and well, and that's what concerns me. But at least this time, they figured out a format way ahead of schedule. I do hope that they stick to it, but they seem to have an idea of what they're doing. However, I feel like as it's related to the fans, it's a little eerie for me right now. But that is the Clash. We're going to see how it all works out come February. So I'm interested to see that. But speaking, we're a little bit somber right now. I would change the mood, but I'm not going to, because this is the season of last for a lot of things. So let's be more depressed. Let's talk about it. Now, Eric Eastup on YouTube. I love his content. Definitely go check that out. He made a really great video about the season of last. This is a last for a lot of things, and I'm going to have some of what he said up here for you guys. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And I also added some more that I'd recognize that we had some last of. And he mentioned, of course, this is the end of the Gen 6 that debuted in 2013. This is the final NASCAR Cup Series race where the cars are built up from the ground up by these teams. We have the end of the 750 horsepower package for now. We have the end of traditional practice sessions. NBCSN is gone. The final week for a lot of drivers and teams that, as of recently, we're learning is a lot more than we thought. CGR, gone. Starcom, gone. Newman, possibly, this could be his last full-time race. This could have been a last full-time race or race in general in the Cup Series. Todd Gordon, the Penske crew chief, most recently for Blaney, retiring. Keselowski is done from the 2. The list keeps going on. De Benedetto leaves at 21. Maybe this is his last time in a Cup car. Priest, potentially with no announced plans right now, gone from the series. And the news recently that Anthony Alfredo won't be back at Front Row Motorsports. That recently dropped literally earlier this week, which is insane that we're seeing all these teams just silly season it out. I don't know if there's any surprises for you there, but what emotions does this bring up for you guys, seeing that this is so many lasts, and what are some things that you wish stayed, and what are things that you're excited to see moving forward? Adam, let's start with you.
I guess really the uncertainty with Ryan Newman. I mean, I've basically watched Ryan Newman my entire life and my entire NASCAR fanship. He started off running a few races in 2001 in the Cup Series, was pretty successful, had a few poles. I actually have one. I have that the 02 ATYL diecast somewhere in my collection that he ran that year. So like it's kind of bittersweet, kind of knowing that he really didn't get a chance to say, hey, this is my final year, I'm going to retire. Kind of like another former Roush driver, Greg Biffle, kind of was forced out of full-time racing. So it's kind of unfortunate, and it's definitely bittersweet that if this was really it for Newman, then so be it. Unfortunately, I wish it would have went out with a bang instead of a fizzle, but that's sometimes how life goes.
I mean, he's a driver we gave a nickname. He's Rocket Man. He deserves, I mean, not just for that, obviously, but for his career success, for the time he's put into the sport, for coming back after that horrific crash, for having the bravery and the guts to do that and be able to just drive it out. He deserves a proper send-off, and I hate that we might not have been able to give it to him. As fans of the sport, and even just the sport in general, was not able to do that, which it hurts a little bit. I'm with you in agreement with that. Dom, anything that stings a little bit that's leaving?
I look at the whole lug nut situation. I know a lot of people say, the 5 lug is that's NASCAR. IndyCar, F1, IMSA, they've got the single lug. That's for them. But when you watch a NASCAR race, you see the 5 lugs, you see the lugs flying all over the place. I mean, that's quintessential NASCAR. But I also understand why, because if you look, again, they're trying to make these cars look as close to on the dealership row cars, and a lot of them are now single lug. And I get that, but I would also ask the question, well, if we're going to do single lugs, then why aren't these cars paddle shift? I feel like that would have had to go hand in hand. If we're going to really go full modern, then these cars should be paddle shift. But again, actual manual transmission with a clutch, that's NASCAR. And I think if you're going to keep that, you should keep the 5 lugs as well. And then the biggest one for me is the fact that NASCAR's building these race cars. The only thing that the manufacturers really have a say in is the engine. So if Dodge comes back, they just get to pick what their stickers look like. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's terrible. It really is. So I loved that Toyota, Chevy, Ford, I mean, they put so much work into those Gen 6 cars because they wanted them to look like the street car, and they wanted to beat the other teams as bad as they could. with the better aero packages, making their cars on the road and the racetrack more aerodynamic. That's what NASCAR is, taking it off the dealership lot, putting a race engine in it and going. So that one really, really stings, especially for someone that got into racing because they like cars. For people like that, especially people that go to the racetracks with just Chevy gear on, they don't root for a driver. They just want to see the bow ties, beat the blue ovals. That really has to hurt.
It takes the identity away, and obviously, yes, the models of these cars look different, but when you have them be all the same except for the motor, like you said, it totally takes away any identity. It's like you're rooting for everybody at that point. And I will say with the lug nuts as well, I am upset about it too, but then I also look at it as a kind of safety precaution. This can go either way, whether you get the single lug nut like straight on and tight enough, then you're good. You just have to worry about one lug nut. But then if that's not, that is a clear, straight up safety issue. You don't have to worry about just one lug nut being off or whatever. But then at the same time, we've seen issues in the past where, tires have gone flying on the racetrack off of these cars because there was a lack of awareness or a lack of checking and trying to do things quick enough to get all lug nuts tight on those wheels, on those tires. So I see it as a benefit if we're talking safety-wise, but also, yeah, I'm going to miss that classic, just trying to get that all in, the time it takes, the precision it takes to get all those 5 lug nuts on the car. I don't know. I hate change. I really do. And this is so much.
Especially when it happens after every race.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I guess I could say this too. We love NASCAR, but I think our love for it means that we can be critical. You're critical about the things you love. You want them to be great, So I guess just to kind of close this out, we're critical because we care. This is not because we're bashing the sport. This is because we genuinely care and we want to see the sport succeed. And as Dom and Adam, older fans, I mean, there's a lot that we're going to miss, So I guess let's bring up the mood. There's also things to look forward to next season. I think there's a lot of new that's scary, but there's some of it that's going to be exciting. For me personally, yes, Brad Keselowski leaving the 2. I might have cried once or twice. Seeing him with Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano holding the big old beer cup that he had when he won the championship and bringing it back, I was like, oh, it kind of hurt me a little bit. It hurt my feelings. I was so sad just to see it. But yet again, he's bringing together a really good team to the 6 car. He has a great spotter. TJ Majors is going to spot for him. And then he has a great crew chief. I mean, everything's coming together, and I'm really excited about the future of Roush Fenway Racing. I think it's going to be great. There's an announcement coming next week, I believe, most likely going to be the rebranding, the new team name is going to be coming up, and we'll report on that, obviously, here on Above the Yellow Line. But that's something I'm excited about, seeing if he can breathe new life into this. And I know some of you might know this, some of you might not. He also had a truck team back in the day, and he has really got lots of good talent. Now, with Daniel Hemrick winning this weekend, I got to pull up the stat here. I want to make sure I'm correct. He has been able, the last 4 champions from the Xfinity Series have been drivers that have raced for him in trucks. We have had Cindric, Hemrick, and then back-to-back Tyler Reddick. So if that doesn't give you hope for the future of Roush Fenway Racing and the talent they can bring in, I don't know what does. He's also produced talent like Blaney has driven trucks for him. He also, again, Cindric, like I said. So for me, that is at least hopeful. What else gives you guys hope? Dom, what gives you hope about next season?
I think the one thing is the great unknown of what this car is going to do. I mean, it could bring back racing that we saw in the past where we've just seen one car dominate. Yeah, sure. I mean, we don't know what it's going to bring. It could bring the whole field together where RWR has a legit chance to win every single week because their cars are just so equal to Gibbs and Hendrick. It's just the great unknown of the next gen car for sure. And then, I mean, the Daytona 500 every year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of car is going to that track. Anything can happen at Daytona. And another BKR alumnus is Parker Kligerman as well.
That's right. That is absolutely right. Yeah. Oh, it's going to be interesting next year. Adam, what about you?
Well, speaking of BKR alum, so is Ross Chastain.
That is also true. Yes, he is. Yes. Ross Chastain.
Lots and lots of good talent has gone through
I knew I was missing one.
There was an important one.
Yeah.
Things to look forward to for 2022. Obviously, Daytona 500. Dom hit the nail on the head. Everyone's always excited for that race. Hopefully, this coming season's race will live up to its expectations and won't be a giant parade lap like the few years past, and doesn't get exciting till the very end. But other than that, yeah, the unknown. There really is a lot of I don't know what's going to happen. So that's going to just keep me coming back for more. That always has kept me coming back for more. I'm just, been a fan for over 20 years of the sport. I'm not going to go away. I don't want to go away. So I'm here for the long haul. Let's hope for the best.
All right. Now we're looking ahead. Now we have to go to predictions. Obviously, there's things, like we said, there's a lot of unpredictables. There's a lot of things we don't know, but I think it's always fun to just kind of throw something crazy out there and hope it lands. I know one of the viewers pointed out on Twitter that I predicted that Kyle Larson would get 10 wins probably like a good many podcasts ago. I think it was like 5 podcasts ago, and it ended up happening. And if you count the non-points race for the Texas Motor Speedway All-Star race, technically he has 11. But I was like, wow, I got something right this season. Who would have known? But that being said, I think there's some really interesting predictions we can throw out here. I'll throw out one of Zachary Bell's ones that he told me he wanted to put on here. He thinks that RCR is going to get a win in the first 8 races. He said his reasoning was, we see that Reddick and Austin Dillon were really good this year. They have a lot of momentum to go off of. He also thinks that the engines, how everything works, he did a better job explaining this to me. But point being, he thinks that they're going to get a win in the first 8 or 10 races. More to come on that. And then he also thinks that Brad Keselowski is going to win a race, and that race being the Daytona 500. He already has a prediction for that race. I think it's solid. He said it would be between Brad, and I think he also said Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin and Brad were the drivers that he said would probably duke it out. We'll have to see if that happens. Dom, crazy predictions 2022. Let's hear it.
Well, I'll stick to the one that I gave earlier, and it's that statistically, in the history of the playoff era, not the chase era, the playoff era, Joey Logano has gone to the championship for every single even number year, has never missed in an even number year, and has never gone in an odd number year. And he kept the tradition going in 2021, much to my depression of it. But I knew it was coming as soon as 2020 ended. So I braced myself, said on to 2022. So Logano's going to make the championship 4 in 2022, keep the stats going. And I think it would just be fitting for car 22 to win in 22. So I know that I know Kyle Busch always jokes with Logano saying, I want your trophy because you won in 18 and I won in 19. So we'll just trade. We'll both have our trophies. So I think Joey will do it 22 and 22. And as for an early Daytona 500 pick, I think just because of how much we don't know about the next gen car, maybe Kyle Busch finally gets it. We'll see.
Adam, what you got?
I definitely think Roush, whatever their name is going to be, racing, will be back in victory lane in 2022. That I would almost want to take home to the bank. Other predictions, I mean, I like where Zach was going with RCR getting a win. Not sure if it's going to be in his time frame, but I think they'll get a win, another one. I'm really anxious to see if Rick Ware Racing will get a top 5. And it doesn't matter if it's a plate track or normal track. If they get a top 5, it'll prove that his new car was definitely worth the time and investment.
Yeah, I would like to see them do well. I'd like to see them succeed. Definitely Cody Ware. I love the guy. I think he fights for great causes on Twitter and social media. He's very vocal about mental health, and I love the vibe. He's very cool, very chill guy. I want to see him be successful. We got to get those Rick Ware cars up in the front of the field. My predictions, I mean, this is an easy one, I think, but going to go off of you guys. Roush Fenway Racing, or like you said, whatever it's going to be named, I think they get a win. They're back in victory lane. Putting a number on it, though, I think Brad Keselowski is going to get 2 wins, at least 2. I know that might be pushing it a little bit. I might regret this later, but 2 wins from him, and then 2 drivers that I think will also get wins. I think Chastain, I made the prediction this season, didn't happen. Same with Reddick, that didn't happen, but I think they'll at least get 1 win next season. I'm hoping that works because they've been close. They've been inching so close that towards the end of the season, Ross Chastain, obviously on those road courses, did really well. So I think that will happen. Let's see. Early Daytona 500 champion. Part of me wants to go Eric Jones, and I don't know why.
I'm just feeling it.
I mean, that's a solid pick. Another good question is, will Kurt Busch keep his win streak alive?
I hope so.
I think that's a really good question because, I mean, he's been able to transition from Stewart-Haas to Ganassi and get wins. At least one a year. A win's a win, regardless. But I just don't know with this 2311 team. It could happen. I would not be shocked if he did, for sure. It's Kurt Busch. He's an unbelievable race car driver. But it would just be interesting to see if he can get 2311 to victory lane. Again, a win is a win. I know Bubba Wallace won on a rain-shortened race. A win's a win, but a genuine full race, and it's a convincing, wow, 2311, they took it to him today. I'd be interested to see if Kurt Busch can do that.
I hope their team is successful. I do. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
So I did not give my early Daytona 500 prediction. I am going to go out on a limb and say that Ryan Blaney takes the cake to start off 2022.
Ooh, I want to see
Let's
that.
get it. Let's get it.
See, I was going to talk about Penske too, because with Brad leaving, we got Joey, we got Cindric now. I think Cindric has a good opportunity of winning a race, especially a road course race. We got Logano, and then we have Harrison Burton going into the 21. That's a whole shakeup at Penske right now. 2 veteran and technically 2 rookie drivers. That's going to be crazy. Do we see them being successful next season, or do we see kind of what we saw with SHR, where we have 2 newer drivers and they just kind of plummeted?
It just hit me that Joey Logano is the oldest driver on his team, and I started watching him when he was 18.
Oh my gosh!
He
Life
was
comes at you
18.
fast, doesn't it?
He was
God.
18 when he started driving the 20 car. Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're witnessing Adam's depression.
You know
Dom's
what's
depression.
even worse? I still have his autographs from when he was 15 racing in the USAR series. I just found him the other day too, and now he's the veteran of Penske.
Oh,
It's that was the thing. I was gonna make a joke at first, oh wow, they've got Joey in charge now, Penske. That's not good. And then it hit me, he's the oldest driver at Penske. That just broke my heart. I used to write him letters when I was a kid.
oh my
That's
gosh.
insane. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that'll be interesting though, because I do think, Team Penske's really lucky that they're getting Austin Cindric in that 2 car. There's something to be said about a team. I know Hendrick is very good at doing this. Gibbs is very good. When you look at team depth, Hendrick has Junior Motorsports. They've got the pipeline. Joe Gibbs, Joe Gibbs has the deepest one. It is Gibbs, then Xfinity Gibbs, and then KBM. Want to talk about having that pipeline, but for Penske to have Blaney, who just has the raw talent, Logano, who is now a former champion, and Austin Cindric's coming in as a former Xfinity champion and a former winner in the Truck Series. This guy has the talent all the way through and has proven it. So huge for Penske to have a legit driver with a good resume going in the Blue Deuce. I hope it's the Blue Deuce next year. For
me, I think Cindric, and I don't want to bash anybody here, but he is the driver, I feel moving up to the Cup Series, that this is the moment. He is supposed to. He's not moving up too early, I don't feel, because usually that is the case. They move drivers up way too early to the Cup Series, they have a downfall, they move back down, or they're in a great car and they get moved. I think Cindric has a good opportunity to be successful, and he actually has the talent to match the ride. Filling Brad Keselowski's ride is not easy. It is so hard to find somebody to fill those shoes, but I think if you got to have anybody, it's got to be Cindric, in my opinion.
Yeah, look at the history of the 2 car. When Kurt Busch left, we thought, man, Keselowski, I really don't think he's going to hold up to it. He brought Penske to their first Cup. I think Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, and now Austin Cindric. I think Cindric can do big stuff with that 2 car. It may not happen right away, but we'll see.
And another thing to add on to Cindric, actually just watching him over the past, when was he in truck? Was that 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
That would be
several years ago when he
4
was
years ago.
4 years ago. 4 years. His last 4 seasons, you've seen very different seasons. You saw when he would run a few Xfinity races, him and Chase Briscoe in the cursed number 6 car for Roush. Think they had a wreck every single weekend, so that showed resilience. Then he had the championship run in 2020, the 22. Then you saw him lose one this season, and he showed that post-race interview. You knew he was upset, yet he kept it professional, and he kept it straight. And that right there, that proved and showed me that, yes, he's ready to make the next step to the big boys, to the Cup, and that I really see a lot in this guy's future.
Lots of bright futures going into the 2022 season for sure. Guys, we got to close out the show now. We got to talk about off-season content from the channel, and we're going to give a huge thank you to everyone watching. So, off-season content, we got a lot coming to you. We're going to have a kind of conversation. We're going to figure some things out. But during the off-season, we got Through the Timeline. Dom, you're going to have the first video up. Basically, a look back at NASCAR history, some of our favorite moments. There's going to be really fun to kind of hear your guys' passion about, like, a race you guys like, a driver you guys like, an era. It's going to be a really fun series. I'm excited to bring that to you guys. We got merch hauls. I was going to do a part 1 and part 2 of all the merchandise I have behind me and back at home as well. So kind of going through that. We got the Walk the Line. We're going to talk some debates, some questions we have for next season as well, maybe some tier lists, maybe some guests, and gaming. I don't know if you guys have checked out the Above the Yellow Line Instagram page and Twitter page, but I bought a lot of games these past, actually yesterday. I bought a lot of games yesterday, and we're going to go through and do some gaming videos. My boyfriend Sawyer is going to help me with that because he is a gaming expert, so really excited to go through that with him and then bring all the content to you all. Guys, I'm really excited for the next season of Above the Yellow Line, but like I said, we're not going anywhere during the off-season. Still going to bring up some updates, hot takes, news, everything. But for now, guys, this was the last episode of the regular season of Above the Yellow Line, closing out the 2021 season, the show where we bring you all the latest news from the NASCAR Cup Series. Like I said, don't go anywhere, and of course, I could not do any of this without the amazing guests I have on the show, my parents, my mom and my dad for being so supportive, my boyfriend who puts up with my hours of editing, and you guys, the Above the Yellow Line crew, Dom, Adam, Zach. If you're hearing this, hello, but y'all make this show possible. You help so much. You brought this show life. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to the viewers so much for sticking with us this season, for supporting us, and gosh, I don't know. It's been a really cool ride this season to figure out where we started with no video, just audio, no visuals, to where we are now. It's been pretty cool. So for you two and Zach, thank you so much for everything you do for this channel, and we're excited to bring you different stuff in the future next season. And we are so excited. We're ready to go 2022. But I guess, as you all know, we gotta figure out where to find you during the off season. Dom, where can the viewers find you during the off season?
At DomJoseph22 and DomJosephRacing.com is all my stuff. And, I'm on Instagram and Twitter.
You guys can find me at alucas9166 on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, you can always follow me and Taylor on the Podium Finish.
Check us out there. And also, Zach, we have his Twitter handle in the link in the description below. So make sure you check out Zach's page. He contributes a lot to this channel as well. Excited to have him back during the off season. But in the meantime, for more strict Above the Yellow Line content, make sure you follow my Twitter page. It's an _TaylorKitchen_ for Twitter Spaces, fan questions, updates, and more. Also follow the Above the Yellow Line Instagram page for behind the scenes content, more questions and updates on when we post. Finally, like Adam said, check out the Podium Finish for driver interviews, previews, recaps, and more. The off season we'll have some fun content coming up, and all this, of course, is linked in the description below. But before you do that, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends and your family, give it a share. And guys, thank you so much for making season number 1 of Above the Yellow Line a great season. And until next time, we'll see ya.